this tutorial, we show you how to set up equity pickup in Financial Consolidation and Close. To set up equity pickup, you enable the equity pickup feature. You then configure and deploy the equity pickup rule sets. You enable the equity pickup feature when you set up the Financial Consolidation and Close business process using the Setup Wizard. You must enable ownership management with the With Equity Pickup option. Enabling intercompany data with tracking is an additional prerequisite for equity pickup. In your metadata, all of the legal or level 0 members in the entity dimension must be flagged as intercompany. If you want to enable the equity pickup feature after you have run the Setup Wizard, you can use the Enable Features dialog box. For more information on using the Setup Wizard, see the Help Center video Configuring Financial Consolidation and Close for Enterprise Performance Management Cloud. After you enable equity pickup, a system rule for equity pickup is added, and the calculation sequence for entities is updated to ensure that subsidiaries are calculated before their holding companies. The system rule and calculation sequence are enabled by default. You can disable them if needed from the Local Currency tab of the Consolidation Process page. Additionally, 3 configurable consolidation rule sets are added for equity pickup. You deploy the rule sets from the Manage Consolidation Rules dialog box. The rule sets are undeployed by default. The Prepare Source Data rule set applies the holding company's ownership percentage to the current period change in total equity for each subsidiary, and writes the results to the EPU data source member of the equity pickup source account of the subsidiary. Equity Pickup Source is a memo account that stores the equity pickup data for each subsidiary for use in subsequent rules. Data for all custom dimension members is aggregated to the No member for the dimension, in the example, the No product member. A system rule then transfers the data from Equity Pickup Source to the equity company income and investment in equity companies accounts of the holding company, using the intercompany dimension to identify the subsidiary entity. You may need to calculate equity pickup detail for the individual members of one or more custom dimensions. To do this, create a copy of the Prepare Data Source rule set, remove the custom dimension from the scope of the rule set in the copy, and then deploy the copy. For more information on customizing configurable consolidation rule sets, see the Help Center video Creating Rule Sets for Configurable Consolidation. The Reverse Holding Company Data rule set creates reversing entries in the elimination member of the holding company's equity company income and investment in equity companies accounts. This results in a net contribution of 0 to the consolidation parent, to ensure that the system doesn't double count the equity pickup at a subsequent holding company. For ownership hierarchies with the holding companies at more than one level, you use the Consolidate EPU data source rule sets to adjust the equity pickup data for subsidiaries of the lower level holding company to the upper level holding company's indirect ownership percentage. You can deploy only one of the 2 rule sets. Select the Consolidate EPU source data rule set to include equity pickup detail for each subsidiary of the lower level holding company and the upper level holding company. Select the Consolidate EPU Source Data Indirect Grouping rule set to include only summarized equity pickup data in the upper level holding company. To use the Indirect Grouping rule set, the parent entities in the hierarchy must be flagged as intercompany. I'll select the Consolidate EPU Source Data rule set and then deploy. In this tutorial, we showed you how to set up equity pickup in Financial Consolidation and Close. To learn more, visit cloud.oracle.com.